Okay, so welcome back, everyone, and welcome to day two of the English Fluency Summit. It's our first session today, and we have Anne Haggerson, who is an expert on the TOEFL exam, and she helps students to go from under 20 to above 20, in fact, above 25 in the TOEFL speaking. Her talk today is Fluency for TOEFL, 3 tips to ace the TOEFL speaking. So thank you so much, Anne, for coming to the summit, and we're really looking forward to your talk. Over to you.
Well, thanks so much. This is really an amazing opportunity to be here with all of you today. I appreciate you all coming to this, and I hope that you can take away some useful tips today to use with your exam preparation. And I'm just grateful that Claire invited me and that this has been such a successful event so far, and there's just been a lot of active participation. So hopefully, I know you can ask the questions today in the chat. You can also, I'm going to be having you participate as well in the chat a little bit during this talk, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and share the screen with you, and let's get this. Okay, so I'm just going to give you some useful tips today about the TOEFL exam. So the first thing is I kind of want to know, how do speaking exams make you feel? So can you type a number in the chat? Do they make you want to run? Is it just like freeze up? I'm frozen, I can't say anything. Or maybe you are just confident. You like exams, they motivate you. Put a number like 1, 2, or 3 in the chat and I can get a feel for how everybody. Yes, I see. Good. I'm seeing some really honest answers here. Good. A 2. Wow. Yes. They're very stressful, right? It makes us, how can we prepare for these stressful environments? So I see that many people wrote 2. I don't see too many 3s in here. Yes. Welcome. Yeah. And also, I forgot to say, if you want, you can put and just tell us where you're coming from in the chat as well, what city you live in or what country you're coming from today. Okay, so here's the agenda. I'm going to give you these 3 tips. Can you guess, looking at these word games, what any of my tips are today? Let's take a guess and see if you can decipher what some of these might be. Ooh, with TOEFL preparation, I like to kind of make it fun and like do word games like this. So I'm going to suggest an app today to use that have these kinds of word games, embedded in the app. Ah, yes, thank you. Anna says peer feedback. Good. So yeah, sometimes when we make the preparation more like a game, it can be more fun. Okay. So we'll be coming back to these tips today as I go through and give you some ideas. Okay. So the first thing I want to do is put the first tip here, which is speed up your TOEFL response. Ah, I see people coming at putting France, USA, Cyprus. That's great. Welcome everyone from all over the world. So this idea of like speeding up your response. Okay. So I know that this is overwhelming to think about, but I'm going to give you some ways to speed up your response. Because if you want a good TOEFL score, for example, your 1 minute response should be like at around 150 words. They say that's like a good number of words to have in a response. Some people may just be wondering, how do we do this? So I want to know if anyone has any ideas already, like to put in the chat. What tips would you give each other to speed up your response? How would you practice speeding up your response for TOEFL? Like, what are some ways that you might do it? Okay, so let's see if anybody has any ideas or strategies that they might suggest first. Okay. Okay, good. Good, yeah. People are writing. Good, like practicing with friends, exactly. Getting ideas from others. People are using some tips I heard in the talks yesterday, like shadowing. Yeah, speaking in chunks of words, for example, memorizing some phrases. So we can use a lot of the tips from the talks from yesterday as well that we were given. Okay, so I'm going to focus on a tip today that's like, I'll write it up here on the screen. Let me see if this is, let me make it a little bit bigger. So what we call like in task-based learning is task repetition. So task repetition is one way to speed up your response. And it basically means like doing it again, doing it again and again, but kind of changing the factors so that you can practice the response in different ways, okay, with different factors, trying it this way, trying it that way, trying it another way, okay? So today I'm going to talk a little bit about that idea of task repetition. I also might today kind of come in and out of the talk because I want to also just connect with all of you a little bit too. And one of the last TOEFL talks I went to, one of the teachers said, yes, I recommend going and doing like conversation classes to speed up your fluency for the TOEFL exam. And I'm going to tell you that it's not going to hurt, but it won't necessarily give you the kind of results that you will get if you're really focused on the kind of things they're looking for, and the criteria, like what they want to see in your TOEFL responses. So today I'm going to kind of show you like a more strategic way to prepare for the exam, because sometimes they're not necessarily rating like how well you speak English, how fluent your English is, but they're really looking at how much time you've spent preparing for the exam, if your response meets these particular categories on the rubric, okay? So good. I hope all of you, am I kind of, if you want me to slow down, let me know. I oftentimes get excited and start speaking really fast. Okay, so templates. Good. I see Milene put templates in. Good, 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 good. Okay, so let me go back and share again this talk. So one thing I want to say is the TOEFL exam, for example, in the part one of speaking, you're asked to give your opinion about a topic, okay? So if you're practicing for this, you really have to focus on the learning objectives for TOEFL speaking. And I'm going to give you some ways that you can speed up your responses with these and focus on the objectives. So being able to express your opinion is so important, okay? And then also giving reasons and examples why you feel the way you do. Explain your preferences, justify them, okay? And then use linking words to to progress your ideas. So like this is the rubric, this is what they're looking for, and a type 4 response would be like fulfilling some of these objectives, okay? I haven't listed all of them, but so if you're preparing, you really need to prepare with these things in mind. And so how do you do that? So I'm going to give you a few ways here, a few ideas. So this could be a typical TOEFL Part 1 question about social media. Okay, so this is, do you agree or disagree with the following statement? Children should be allowed to use social media before they turn 16 years old. Use specific details and examples to support your answer. You only have 45 seconds to speak to defend your opinions. So it's a really short period of time. And many of the students I've worked with struggle with this first question because, you know, it's like they have to come up with a lot of ideas. It has to be really structured. And a lot of times people don't know what to say. So first of all, in the chat, can you tell me what you think? Do you agree that they should be allowed to use social media at young ages, or do you disagree with the statement? Just so I can get a feel for what people think in the chat, what some opinions are here. Disagree, just okay, agree, okay. Good, 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 good. Good, okay. Also, I am going to go ahead and give you the link to this presentation just in case you want to follow along. And you can also kind of respond. This presentation has some interactive components, okay? So if you want to open it, you can on your own device. And so some people talked about like shadowing or using some phrases. So here are some ways to express your opinion, and it's kind of a fun way to work with the language. So a lot of like sorting activities. So you can kind of sort language to agree could go in this column, language to disagree in this column. And this could be like an activity I might do with my students so that they're aware of different phrases, different ways of expressing their opinion so that they can do it on the exam like fast, and they have it kind of memorized and ready to go. Starting strong is important, starting confidently. So sometimes it's good to memorize that first phrase, some opinion statement so you're ready to go. Good. Okay, so you can move these around. So for example, on your own device, you can move some of them. Okay, I'm in favor of, okay. So I'll kind of let you play around with this. When you're doing the TOEFL, some people might just say like, I disagree with that statement, and they might not go into what the statement is. So it is important to kind of restate the idea. Like, I'm in favor of kids using social media for the following reasons, because they want something really structured, okay? Not so much improvised. Like they want something that has like that follows this kind of structure. And it's kind of in the rubric too that I was telling you about. Okay, good. So I'm glad to see that are you able to categorize these? Yes? It's really, yeah, and it's just kind of a fun way to work with language. Like I said, making the exam preparation a game, making it light, making it engaging for yourself and fun while you do it. Then you're going to brainstorm some reasons, some pros, and some cons. Okay. So I want you to brainstorm some reasons. And also, as you do that, I'm going to show you how I prepared for a local speaking exam in Galician. So I live in Spain, and we also speak Galician where I'm from. So I used a ton of graphic organizers like this and also like mind maps to prepare for the speaking exam. And it was really useful. Lots of brainstorming, lots of just like pen and paper, writing things down, personal examples, ideas, pros, cons, and then bringing it off the page into spoken, Galician. So I would practice a lot with a language teacher and other students from the class using this method, and it worked really well. So let's hear some ideas about why you agree or why you disagree in the chat with this idea of social media. Should young people use it or not? And some pros and cons. With TOEFL speaking, they really want some personal examples. Like I have a nephew who uses TikTok late into the night, and then he can't wake up for school the next day, and he feels depressed after using it. So you could give that personal example. Okay. So let's hear from all of you and seeing if there's any. Yes, the initial statement. Sure. So I'm going to show you what it is again. The initial statement is, do you agree or disagree that children should be able to use social media before they turn 16 years old? And then you need to use specific ideas and examples, okay? So let's brainstorm a little bit, get some ideas out. What are your thoughts about this? Is social media a good thing? Let's hear. Oh, thanks, Claire, for putting that in the chat. Good. Yes, Anna, a source of information, a communication, with people if they're learning languages. Yes, maybe it increases violence. Perhaps there's a sense of addiction that, pros, it broadens horizons. We could communicate with people around the world. Cons, waste of time. Good. It could be addictive. Yeah, so these are really good ideas. It's distracting. And as you can see, we're getting a lot of ideas from each other. That's why some of the preparation is good to do with other people to get other people's perspectives. Growing depression among female teens. Yeah, Suzanne, that tends to be a big issue with Instagram, for example. Yeah, maybe their brains, like their level, they're not ready enough. They're not mature enough to use it. Good. So when you're preparing this response, learning bad behavior, you need to have two reasons and they need to be kind of different from each other. You don't want to repeat the same exact reasons for each one, okay? Solitude, they stop socializing, exactly. So this is kind of the first step, that idea of just brainstorming, using a lot of personal examples to get the vocabulary and to sort of get ready to speak for 45 seconds. Another idea, while you're preparing, like you can multitask, like you could put some radio music on, add some pressure to this. Like, don't just make it too easy. Like, you could go walk and then record your answer on your phone. You could be cooking in the kitchen and just like, okay, social media and teens and speaking out loud. You could be preparing a coffee. Okay, so getting some things going on, because the exam has a lot of pressure and a lot of distractions and stimulation. So try to do things so that you know, like, okay, this exam, I have a lot of different ways to prepare. Stand up and speak, okay? Because that can also be helpful. Like if you're just like standing up, sitting down, moving around, okay? Yes, good. So those are kind of just those tips. I'm just kind of throwing around some ideas with this first idea of like creating some ways, like I said, that are exam-like pressures. Time your response. Okay. So once you've brainstormed the list and you're ready with your opinion statement, time it, record yourself maybe on Zoom. You could even do a Zoom recording, because that way you can see your body language. You can see your confidence. Are you, hesitating? Are you pausing? Because a lot of teachers have talked about just the audio recording, but maybe video might be useful too, to see yourself. And you can just watch it, or if you're doing it with a friend, your friend could also give you some tips. Okay. And I know that people maybe feel timid or intimidated to hear themselves speak on the recording or to watch the recording. But let me tell you that it's worth it. Because if you can get beyond that feeling of like, oh, I don't like the sound of my voice, just think about how much it's going to help you, okay, in the exam preparation. Now, this is another fun way that you can work on the learning objectives. So if you put this paragraph in order, it can be kind of a way to think like, oh, how can I play around with these ideas and the linking words and put the paragraph in order? Okay. So this is one of the things I've done like on the app or with my students in class to help them think about using linking words when they're giving their responses. So some of you had come up with, this is kind of like an example of using language like, for example, firstly, secondly. So again, these you can move around and kind of play around with these on the screen and kind of look, oh, where does this go? It says in conclusion. So this is just a sample answer. Okay, so yeah, I mean, linking words are really essential for the TOEFL. You really need to have linking words. Okay. Okay, so great. I hope everyone is kind of having fun putting this in order if you open the link on your own computer. And then you can kind of compare it with a sample answer. This could be a sample answer. So you notice that there's like a strong statement, and then, there's lots of examples, and then there's, personal examples as well, and justifications that are different. Okay. And so I know I'm kind of rushing through this. I think I'm going a little bit fast, but I wanted to see, yeah, as you can see, and I think this response has a high word count. Like the person would have to say this in 45 seconds, you'd have to push through it. You would have to speak pretty quickly, okay? Faster than what you would think. All right. So that's why I'm saying the exam preparation has to be so strategic for the TOEFL and a lot of practice. Okay. The second tip, Anna had written in the comments about peer feedback. So it's important to work with a community, work with a partner, maybe some sort of language partner online would be useful as well for this. Okay. And I'm going to provide, yeah, Suzanne says, I've also had problems. Exactly. Sometimes it's just, I also have practiced a lot of responses and I haven't gotten a good enough score because I didn't format it very well. This is an example of a peer feedback form that you could use with a partner, and I've given you the link if you want to make a copy for yourself. So for example, you would practice with your partner, and then you and your partner would kind of give each other feedback. Like, did they use a statement to show if they agreed or disagreed? Did they speak for 45 seconds? Or maybe did they pause and speak for 30 seconds, you know? Did they use reasons and examples? And did they use these linking words, like I said, which is in the rubric? And then you can kind of evaluate each other and see just that act of being more aware can really help you move things along even faster. Okay. Okay, where do you find partners? You can find partners on Facebook groups. You can find partners in different learning communities. And I'd say there's just a big Facebook community for this. TOEFL Facebook groups are usually nice ways to meet people who are also preparing for the exam. So I wanted to kind of ask and see if anybody wants to try out this response today. And we can kind of take notes as someone speaks and gives a sample response for 45 seconds. If not, I asked Claire if she would do it for us if there's no volunteers. So again, we're looking at if you agree or disagree with the idea that kids under 16 should use social media. Okay. And would anybody like to volunteer to do it? And we can kind of time you and listen to your response and get some ideas. Anyone want to volunteer today? I know it's, let's see, kind of putting everybody on the spot. Oh, Cinta maybe wants to do it? I don't know. Claire, do you have a way to unmute somebody who might want to do it? Yeah. Okay. If you want to try to do it, then Claire can unmute you.
I got out already.
Okay, good. Okay,
Yeah.
so
what I have to do?
well, you have to speak for 45 seconds and give your opinion about whether or not you think youth under 16 should use social media or not.
Under 16 is a topic because children, when we want to be calm, we give them our phone to play with, and they're used to. But when they're 10, 11, 12, we don't want them to play with the telephone. So how can we do, parents, to prevent using children our phones? It's impossible. So it is not a question of if we like or we don't like, if we approve or we don't approve. It's a question of how to teach the children to use these machines. Is it 45?
Yeah. I mean, I think, yeah, you definitely spoke for 40 seconds. Exactly. Now,
okay.
you did something that a lot of people do, which is kind of like saying, oh, it's impossible either way. There's no right answer. But it is important to take a stand. Like you do need to have a strong opinion either one way or another, either for or against. Many of the students I work with want to take like, oh, what should we do? Or there's no right answer. How could, we need to find solutions, but it's really important to give an argument and give reasons why you feel the way you do.
But I gave reasons, isn't it?
Well, I could not hear a firm stance from you.
No.
And what your opinion was.
No, it's my opinion.
It was kind of more like, what can we do?
It's my opinion. We don't know what to do because it's too new. It's
yes.
It's
It's hard to know the exact structure, right? Of
yeah.
giving a
we
response.
use it as a juguete. How do you say in
A
English?
game, a game,
A game.
a game.
For us, it's first a game,
Yeah.
and after forbidden.
Yes, 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 yes. Okay. Yes, Claire, did you want to say something?
Yes, how much time do we have? Because I've got three people who would like to try. I've got Laxmi, Fahwa, and Fatma. Do we have time for all three people?
Well, because I wanted to get on to, I wonder if we could wait until the end for more people to try. Is that possible?
Yes,
Because I
thank you
want to
very
give a
much.
few more ideas, a few more tips, and then we'll keep going. So this was the original question, right? So keep that in mind. Maybe at the end, a few people can practice and I can give some feedback on the responses. Okay, so let me go back to, yeah, so with this, I was going to give you some, in my freebie with this event, you can download this progress tracker. This tracks how much you're practicing for the exam. So this is really useful because you could give yourself a kind of reward, buy an ice cream if you practice, at the same time and you're practicing these different questions. So kind of seeing how well you're doing, you could record your response and save the link to the recording in this document, for example. So it's a great way to track how you're doing from the beginning of your practice to the end and seeing your improvements. Like, am I improving with the TOEFL response? Am I getting better? Okay. Now, the third tip is to practice with the TOEFL Speaking app. Okay. And this is the app that I'm going to recommend using for TOEFL. It's a course that, this is, again, this social media question that you can practice on the app. This is the app. I have the link on the presentation and I can add it as well to the chat. It's a course that I designed with another professor in the United States, and it has speaking practices 1 through 4, and it's just really reasonable price. This has TOEFL and IELTS, but the course I'm talking about today is the TOEFL course. I just wanted to just briefly share like what it kind of looks like on your, it is only available on your phone. So I'm gonna try to share the phone real quick. 1 second. Let's see if I can share it with you. Okay. 1 second. See if you're able to see it. Okay. So you can kind of see my phone, right? Okay. So the app is the Edulink Speak app, and it does allow you to connect with a partner and practice with a partner as well. So there are duo tasks on the app, and it's task-based, like it's based on an amazing research-based approach. So for example, you can practice also, this is TOEFL Speaking Part 1. You could go in and practice with AI, okay? And what's so cool about this one in particular is that it's text to voice and voice to text. Okay, so you can say, let's go. And so the app will be speaking with you. So you're able to kind of, oops, you're able to, kind of see the text, listen, so it's multimodal. And then you can record your response and it will give you some advice, some tips to improve your answer. So I might just say, one piece of advice was, my grandfather, he told me how to reach out for help when I needed it for others, and then you'll submit it. So, that's right. And then it will ask you a follow-up question. So it's very useful. And like I said, the difference between this one and maybe some of the ones you saw yesterday is this one is more designed for TOEFL questions that you might see on the exam. Okay, so I think it's an amazing resource to use, and you can like set the notifications to practice at a certain part of the day. Okay. So, and then do you want me to share, like, does everybody have the link, or do you want me to share the link to the website? This is the website where you can find more information about the app as well. And then I wanted to also share a further resource with you. This app is more for like preparation, getting ideas, practicing your speaking. And then this other resource, My Speaking Score, is more for like getting closer to the exam and doing a ton of practice exam questions. So more towards like before you're going to take the exam and you're almost ready and you want to see like how you're scoring. And you can see like this resource is more expensive, but it's also useful just to give you an idea of like what you might need to do to improve your speaking skills. And this one is it uses the speech rater. The speech rater is what the ETS exam also uses, okay, for your speaking practice. Okay, so I think what I'd like to do is maybe a few more people can practice. We could open it up for questions. And if you have questions about any of the resources that I shared or how to prepare, I know I kind of rushed through the tips, but hopefully it gave you some useful ideas to think about with your exam preparation and perhaps just to motivate you.
Perfect. Thank you so much indeed, Anne. I loved your tips. I've been taking notes actually because I don't prepare students for TOEFL, but I do get lots of inquiries. How can I improve my speaking? And now I can at least help some of my students. But before we go on and ask if there are any questions, do the people who wanted to try the first part to get Anne's expert assessment and evaluation, are you still interested in having Anne listen to your English? So let me just go back through the comments. There were three people.
Looks like Fatima says yes.
Is that Fatima Musa? Yeah, okay. I'm going to ask you to unmute yourself, Fatima.
Okay, Fatima. So if you want to talk, tell me and then I'll start the timer and we can kind of practice for the 45 seconds.
Okay, can I have the prompt, please?
Oh, yes. Okay, so let me just go back and share that with you. 1 second. Let's see, here we go.
Okay, I'm ready.
Okay, ready?
Yes.
Okay, great. Go ahead.
Personally, I strongly disagree that children should be allowed to use social media before they turn to 16 years old for several reasons. First of all, social media, it can be very addictive because children, they're spending too much time on the social media and they can neglect their study. As a result, they will end up failing. In addition to that, social media, it causing the children to spending too much time, as I mentioned, firstly, because they end up not having a physical activities. As a result, they can gaining weight, which is going to be impacted on their health. So this is why I disagreed with the statement.
Oh, nice. Great. Actually, it was 37 seconds. So you
Oh.
came out a little bit short. So great. Your speed is really good, actually. That's kind of the speed. I know it's shocking to everyone, but that's the kind of speed we're looking for the TOEFL response. It has nothing to do with what you would naturally do in everyday life. It's just like preparing for that level. And then you gave two really nice reasons that were very different from each other. So I like that. You were using a nice statement that was strong, and then you gave the two reasons. And then I was thinking maybe you could also say like, you could, because you said social media, maybe a few too many times, you could also say platforms like Facebook or Instagram to vary your language and vocabulary. And then also you could say something like sedentary lifestyle. So they want to see that kind of advanced language, like it's sedentary lifestyles. And those kind of higher words with more syllables also will help you score higher. Yeah, but overall, nice job. And then just add like a personal example to get those extra 5 seconds, like to add to one of them. Yeah, great. And the more you practice, the more you will get it like perfected. You would be surprised, like, but just like walking around the kitchen, practicing this, moving around, speaking like as if you're speaking in public, it can be really useful to get the body less stressed and less like, so great job. Thanks for sharing that. That was exciting to hear.
Thank you so much, Fatma. And then I've got Laxmi, who asked before if you have time. Yeah, Fatma, I thought that was amazing. I thought you were brilliant. Right. Okay, I'm going to ask Laxmi to unmute.
Hello. First, I totally disagree with the above statement. First of all, children they lost by using social media. Their childness will be lost, and they don't know which news should be received and which should be discarded. So we should not allow them to use social media before 16 years old.
Nice. Thank you, Laxmi, for participating.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah.
Yeah. You had you came up with a reason, which was that it's distracting and that social media is like a waste of time for youth. Good, good. Nice. Thank you. And so what you want to do is keep practicing to increase your speed. You might want to do text to voice to text software just so you can read the script and add some extra vocabulary, add some adjectives, for example, to lengthen your response. Great. It's so nice to hear all of you. Yeah, voice to text software. Thanks, Claire.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Laxmi. Yes, lovely tips also from Anne. The next person, if we have time, is do we have time? People
Yeah,
still
that's fine.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much, Anne. Thank you for giving us extra time. Luz Cogson. So I'm going to try and find Luz and ask Luz to unmute. Let me see if I can find Luz. I'm going through. No, I can't find Luz. Luz, can you put, oh, I can find Luz now. Here you are, Luz, sorry. I'm going to ask you to unmute. Can you find the unmute button, Luz? It's at the bottom of your screen. No, maybe Luz is not here anymore.
Ah,
Okay, I'm going to go, sorry.
that's okay. Fatima, you
Uh,
need 26. Oh, yeah.
Okay, Luz, can you see me? Can you see? Oh, good. We've got Luz. Luz, can you hear us? Luz, we can't hear you if you're speaking. Okay, Luz, I'll come back to you because I can't hear you speaking, but I want to go to Farwa. Farwa, can you make yourself known, Farwa? Can you raise a hand? Perhaps this is the problem when there are so many people. Let me see if I can, Farwa. Can you unmute yourself?
Yeah. Hi.
Hi, Farwa.
Hi, Farwa.
Hi. So my voice is a little bit like cranky because it's night over here and I'm just get up to have your lecture. So I will try my best.
Okay, let me time you so I can see. Okay,
Yeah.
ready? Whenever you're ready.
Okay. Okay. To me, I don't think using social media is a good idea for kids. Take my nephew Michael. He's 16 years old, and whenever I go to meet my brother, the kids always stares at the phone. It's ridiculous. I was so mad the other day that I yanked the phone out of his hand and said that he's being rude. And then he started screaming in the middle of the restaurant and wouldn't stop until I gave it back. And that's what I realized that how addicting the social media is. So for me, I definitely totally against using social media for kids under 16.
Good. Yeah. The timing was good. It was like 46 seconds, 45 seconds. Good. Good. So yeah, I want you to work on starting strong.
Okay.
And making sure like you give a strong statement, because you had said like you were against it, but it was like I wanted to hear something like for these reasons, for these
Okay.
for these two fundamental reasons or something. And then
Okay.
your first statement, I thought the example was excellent of your nephew. You went into detail about this personal example, and you could
Yeah.
kind of feel, how authentic your voice was and the experience was. So I love that personal example. I just wanted to hear one sentence explaining that. So
Okay.
like giving your argument. So I'm against it because it distracts people from having real conversations at dinner time. For
Okay.
example, when I went out to eat with my nephew. Okay, so we
Okay.
really need to know what the argument is. And that's the first sentence that was kind of missing from your argument sentence. Yeah.
So I have to focus on the reason first and then the example.
And then the example, exactly. The speech rater software is looking for words like, for example, an example of this is. So
Okay.
those kinds of words are really important to show that you're talking about the example at that point. Yeah.
Okay.
So Sintha
Okay.
says we have to be liars. You can make up responses. You can make up personal examples as well. They're not going to know if you're telling the truth or not in the exam.
Okay.
Then,
Thank you.
yeah, and also just you can see like this experience listening to each other's ideas is really useful as well. That's why peer feedback is so great. You can learn a lot from each other. It doesn't necessarily have to be with a teacher. You're learning a lot just hearing others' ideas, experiences, reasons, examples. It's very effective. Okay. I see Rosa's asking a question. Do you see that, Claire, in the chat?
Yes, that's right. Can we say that we might be against kids using using phones, but the problem is whether we should allow it or not?
Yeah, I guess it's I see what you're saying, Rosa. Like you're saying that it's hard to control the phone use. It's hard to, this is kind of what Sintha was saying, right? It's hard to know how to regulate it, how to control it, because they have so much access to phones. Try to stick to the prompt. Don't try to change the prompt or make the prompt into a question or make the prompt somehow change the language in the prompt or talk about something else that's outside of the bounds of the prompt. You really want to focus on what they're asking you and not change it too much.
We've got a question on accents from Fatima. Will accent affect the scores?
Okay, well, the speech rater does rate pronunciation. Okay, so it is important to work and improve your pronunciation for the exam. So certain sounds might be harder for you if your first language is in maybe Russian speakers might have a hard time with the Z or the S or the so it is important to do some training so that you're kind of seeing what words am I having difficulty with, where am I getting stuck, how can I train my mouth to, mouth gymnastics to make that sound a little bit faster. Yeah, so I think pronunciation is important. It will help you get a higher score, but on the TOEFL exam, like I said, vocabulary, it's rating a lot of different factors. Vocabulary is important. Like I said, structure is important. So it's not the only important factor. And speed is higher rated. Like if speaking faster is rated higher than pronunciation, for example, on how they're grading you.
Can I just say something there though, Anne? Because I
Yeah,
think that's a really good point. This 150 words a minute is really fast. But
yeah,
isn't the problem if you speak too fast that maybe you lose something,
yeah.
clarity, that maybe you're not linking the words very well,
Mhm,
and so you're
mhm.
less easy to understand. What would you say is the right balance, the speed or the understanding, how your pronunciation is?
Yeah, I think it's like you want to find a good balance, because if you go too fast, then you lose intelligibility. People won't understand what you're saying. Maybe the words will come out kind of mushed together. So it is important, even if you go like 140 words per minute or something like that. And then just keep practicing up to increase the speed. But yes, it's a process. I know it's really hard to increase the speed. But like I said, some people who wanted to score like at a 27, 28, they did have to put hours and hours and hours into TOEFL preparation. Some people think, oh, it's just a few months or something. But some people who want a really high score, if they need it for their graduate program, may have to dedicate more time than what they thought.
It's a very good point there that, often just for that 45 seconds of proving
Yeah,
yourself, you're spending
right.
hours and hours in preparation. But yes, I would say for all exams, you have to learn the exam and you have to learn what they want from that exam and then
Right.
deliver that. And that's the practice.
That's right.
Farwas asked a very specific question, actually, and there are a couple of others which I'll go back to, Anne, but this is on the speed. Is it okay to have 120 words per minute to get 26 in the TOEFL
Yeah,
speaking?
I've never been able to get a 26 at 120 words. It would be really hard because I have tried a lot. I've used myspeakingscore.com a lot to rate my own scores and to use and to judge what it takes. And usually like around that mark, like the 150 mark, is where I get the higher scores for 1 minute responses. Yeah, yeah.
Lovely, thank you. So a couple of other questions, and it's still related to that first one you did. Perhaps sorry, let me just go back. Can we balance with pros and cons and conclude with our opinion? So rather than saying that you're for or you're against, say that they're good, the pros are here, the cons, and my opinion is. And
I
then the
don't
next,
recommend it. You just don't have time. You just do not have time to do that either. It would take way too long. Here are some pros, here are some cons, and you really need to take a stance. And because they want to see that you can make an argument. And if you're staying in the middle and saying this or that, pros, cons, a lot of my students want to do that actually. And I just
okay.
sway against that. Yeah.
Lovely. I think
Yeah.
all again about reading that prompt and saying whatever you're saying is completely answering the question and not going from
Mhm.
side to side. Just focus. If you've got to say yes or you've got to say no, say it.
Yeah, exactly.
Lovely. And then Suzanne says perhaps we're not obliged to give our own opinion, not being too differentiated. So, and we're not obliged to give our own opinion.
Where is she saying that? She's saying that you're not, an opinion is important, right? Is it a
Maybe
question about?
it doesn't matter what we think.
Oh, so like you could make up an opinion. So that's a good example. Like, let's say you want to know how to argue both sides of the social media question. Practice to argue both sides so that you're prepared, and it will help your fluency as well to repeat that task from both sides. And then you'll be prepared to argue one side or the other. It doesn't have to be how you really feel. Like the practice question that you were working with there, the sample response or whatever, that's something I invented. I didn't really believe that opinion, but I was trying to think of reasons the other side would argue that it's okay for young people to use social media. So practice both sides, just like a debate. Like if you've ever done debates or something, it's good to practice both sides of the coin.
Thank you. And a question from Angie. How many words should we use to get 20 on the TOEFL speaking?
It's not necessarily only about words. It's also about the vocabulary you're using. Are you using grammar correctly? Are your verb tenses conjugated correctly? Are you using enough variation? Are you repeating words, or are you using some synonyms? So it's much more complex than word count. It's also, are you giving your opinion and backing it up with these ideas? You know what I'm saying? So I can't really say you need this many words for a 20 because it's kind of like much more complex. You see the rubric. The rubric is, there's something about fluency, there's something about vocabulary, there's something about structure, if you're using, a structure. So it would depend on if you're using a lot of those rubric categories in your response as well.
Perfect. Thank you very much indeed. Right, lovely. Does anybody have any more questions for Anne or any comments? So Fatma wants to know if you teach other sections apart from speaking.
Well, speaking is my focus on the TOEFL, actually. I mean, I've taught writing as well, but I like to focus on speaking because it is the hardest part of the exam, in my opinion. It's very hard. And I've worked with a lot of teachers in the United States who are coming from other countries. They want to teach in the United States, and those schools are requiring a 24. And it's really hard for them to get the 24 on the TOEFL, but it's like they have that set requirement. So sometimes there's just certain strategies to push to get over that 24 mark. Yeah.
Lovely. A couple of quick questions from Angie again. How can we avoid the silent moments or the sound E when we can't find the correct word? So how can we avoid silence? And then related to that, a question from Nilu, why is it hard to speak? So avoiding silence, finding it difficult to speak, what would be your suggestions, Anne?
Yeah, I mean, I think naturally as speakers, we oftentimes pause. We might have those moments of, yeah, even when you're just having a normal conversation. So that is very natural. It's like a natural part of human communication. So on the exam, though, we want to avoid those kinds of pauses. So it's good to have synonyms lists. So when you're practicing TOEFL reading, for example, you can write down words and then synonyms, and even with writing. So then you can, as you're doing practice for the speaking exam, you can access those synonym lists and draw upon all of those words and try to put them in practice and kind of get them, like I was saying. This other question about why is it hard to speak? It's because the methodology, in my opinion, that teachers have used over the years has been focused on grammar and writing, and there hasn't been enough emphasis on speaking and language instruction. So now we have studied English our entire lives, and we've focused on input and all these other aspects of reading and writing, grammar, and then the exams, a lot of times in school, in elementary or high schools, are focused on writing and grammar, not on speaking. So in my opinion, it has a lot to do with the schooling system and how language has been taught over the years. Yeah, and that is just not a big of focus as it could be in our education system and in language methodologies.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Well, Anne, thank you so much indeed for
Thank you
telling us
all
about
for
the
coming
TOEFL
here.
speaking. No, really some lovely, lovely tips. And also it's really great to get your expert advice on the speaking. And I'd also like, first of all, to thank everyone for coming, but also for those of you who put up your hand and volunteered to speak and do the 45 seconds. This is a big thing. So
Yeah,
really,
that takes a courage.
yeah. Thank you so much for participating. And I hope you found that useful as well to get Anne's expert feedback on your speaking. So yes, thank you so much indeed. I just want to very quickly remind you about two things. At 2 p.m. UK time today, we have Martin from Rock and Roll English, and he's going to help us with the listening and pronunciation side of fluency. So Martin believes that you can't be fluent in speaking until you're fluent in listening, and he's going to help us with that. So that's a talk at 2 p.m. UK time. And then at 6 p.m., we're going to finish the summit with a party. Come along, have some free English speaking practice, meet each other in breakout rooms so you can chat. You can, include, swap your email address if you want to get together and speak and practice your fluency after the summit. So come along. Again, obviously it's completely free and it's all the same link to join. So thank you so much for your fantastic talk, Anne, and for all your tips. And thank you everyone who's come along today. I will see you at 2 p.m. UK time. If there's nothing else, I've got lots of thank yous for you.
Thank you all so much. It's been an amazing session. Thanks for your participation and for adding all of your ideas to this. And hopefully you can take away a few strategies to put into your daily life.
Thank you so much. See you a little bit later, everyone. Bye for now.
Okay, bye.